Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers. We're here at Oakwood Village, and of course we love being around Stella's displays, especially in the shade perennials. And today we are doing a perennial spotlight on Astilbe. And here we are. Astilbe are really a fantastic flowering plant for color in the shade garden, especially mid-season, because of course in spring we've got a lot of color in shade. We have all those spring ephemerals blooming and everything else, you know, bleeding hearts and Lenten rose and primrose and all those types of things. But the Astilbe really comes out and extends your color in a shade garden for a very long period of time. So we absolutely love it. So here are the things that you need to know about Astilbe. First thing, always sun conditions. They are perfect in a part shade condition, so 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. However, they will tolerate more sun, but you've got to make sure that you keep your soil evenly moist and consistently moist, okay? They really would prefer more soil moisture. You can put them in full shade as well. Just don't expect a ton of flowering from them because, again, in denser shade conditions, they don't get enough sunlight to produce copious amounts of bloom. So keep that in mind. So sun, really part shade here, can go in more sun, can go in less, but that's really what they like. Okay, second thing, and I already mentioned it, is soil. So they love fertile, amended soil with plenty of organic matter, compost, planting mix, whatever you like to do, sweet peat, and make sure that that soil stays consistently moist, okay? So we still want it to drain. We don't want them to be stuck in a pond or a pool, but they do like moist feet. So that's a good thing if you have maybe wetter areas around the garden that you do need some color in, okay? Watering. 1 inch of water, 1 time per week, very standard for all plant material. I will have to say, if you're encountering a hotter, drier summer season, make sure that these guys get a little bit more water. And of course, deeper watering is always better than a quick spray or a shallow watering. So keep that in mind as well. Fertilizer, we're going to feed them with plant tone, just like we do most of our perennials. In fact, I would say 99% of our perennials, we're going to feed with plant tone. We'll feed them twice a season, usually once in spring and once midsummer, okay? So that takes care of your perennial Astilbe, no problem whatsoever. Attributes, well, obviously they're good shade plants, so we're getting that mid-season color that we're talking about. They're also a great cut flower. So when a plant, or I should say when an Astilbe is blooming, if it's blooming about 50%, that's actually when you want to cut it and enjoy it as a cut flower. And these flowers, if you don't cut, are fine because they will actually dry on the stem and dry just a little bit darker, so they still give you some flowering interest in the shade, regardless if they're truly flowering or not. Okay, so that's always really great. The other thing that the Astilbes do well is they do attract pollinators, so you will see bees kind of hovering around them. Not so much the hummingbirds and the butterflies, however, those darker colors, reds and so forth, the red Astilbe varieties, are definitely going to bring a hummingbird into the garden and kind of fly around and peruse the whole shade garden. So keep that in mind with those darker reds and pink colors. Let's move on to division, and I did want to mention this. Astilbe do like to be divided about once every 3 to 4 years, okay? So they don't need it all the time. Just after a few years, go in and divide at the crown. So they do have a fairly thick crown at the base of their stems, and you're going to do this in spring, or you can also do it in August in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio, okay? So kind of that late summer time period. The crown division is best for them, and you think, oh my gosh, I am going to ruin my plants. And I'm going to tell you, they do so well after dividing and really fill out from there, and they bloom so much better because you're going to kind of see them. They get overgrown. You'll kind of see less and less bloom panicles out of them. So make sure that you are putting a division on your calendar 3 to 4 years out for the Astilbe. Okay. Let's talk about different varieties, because Astilbes, they're various in obviously color, height, habit, okay? But there are several different species here in this family. Some are early blooming, some are mid-season blooming, and some late season, I should say during the summer. So you've got early summer, midsummer, late summer bloomers. So we'll talk about those too. The first one that I wanted to mention are the Astilbe arendsii, or arendsii, and they are actually probably 90% of the Astilbe you see in garden centers, and when you're going out and walking and looking at gardens, they're usually the arends type. Many of these came from Germany and were bred by George Arends, hence the name. So what you're going to find are very good, beautiful varieties. Typically, the Arends varieties are all various heights, usually tall and wispy, okay? So anywhere between the 24 to 40 inch mark, kind of tall and wispy panicles, beautiful green or bronze foliage, so no problem there, sort of fluffy fern-like foliage. But they typically are earlier bloomers. So I'm going to show you Bridal Veil, and Bridal Veil is kind of at the end of the bloom cycle here, still showing some white with Bridal Veil, but as you can tell, very fluffy green foliage, and then of course those taller panicles, sort of wispy out there in the garden. I also have a very popular one here. This is a red, and it's called Finale. And Finale, again, Arends type, but what you're noticing here is a little bit darker green foliage than Bridal Veil, but also these flowers are completely bloomed out and are drying on the panicle, which is cool because look at this. It has a really pretty sort of maroon, darky, dusky maroon color to it. So again, even after the blooms are spent, they still look really neat out in the garden. Okay, so that's the first type. Second type that I want to mention is Astilbe japonica. And Astilbe japonica is a little bit different because they are early, medium, and, or I should say mid and late blooming types of Astilbe. So you'll find all those different in this japonica family. Typically with japonica, they do have, again, fluffy, ferny foliage, serrated edges, fairly coarse in texture. But when they bloom, their blooms are more pyramidal and they really kind of fill out. So they're a little bit more fluffy on top, okay, with the blooms. This one is Red Sentinel. We love it because of that true red color. And if you were to plant Finale and Red Sentinel in that kind of same area, or plant clusters of Finale and Red Sentinel, Finale would bloom that red first, and then Red Sentinel would come up after. So it actually, sequence-wise, works out really nicely in the garden if you want to continue that red coloration. The unique series that we grow is also a japonica type, and we grow all different colors of the unique series. Okay, one of our favorites here, and you can tell a lot of them are in bloom, and it's because their later blooming Astilbe is the chinensis type, okay? And so there are many hybrids, many different cultivated varieties in the chinensis type of Astilbe. What you'll find here is obviously the panicles are very thick, very candle-like, and actually this is, oh, look at the bumblebee. Actually, this is purple candles right in front of me, and it is a chinensis type Astilbe. So they can be, again, short or tall, and as their panicles fill out, they're very, very kind of tight, but very full, okay? Different colors here. We have Maggie Daly in the back. She's a beautiful kind of rosy pink purple. We also have the Vision series, and it's all through here. Vision Pink, Visions red, which kind of almost looks like the true Visions, the purple Visions, but it's really, really kind of red burgundy colored when it's budded up. And then as it opens, it will kind of fade to that sort of violet purpley color. White Visions, or Visions in white, I should say. And this is a cute little one. This is dwarf. This is little Visions in purple, I think, is how it was labeled. So little Visions here. Now you can tell the foliage is much larger, much coarser in texture, not as fluffy and bushy. It definitely stays lower to the ground, okay? So these Astilbe are very nice, again, when you want that late color and you need a little bit of bolder, coarser texture in the shade garden. I think they work very, very nicely, and again, can complement any of the early bloomers. This last one I want to show you is actually Astilbe Sprite, and this is in the simplicifolia type of Astilbe. You can tell it's a dwarf, very, very small. Usually foliage and flowering, you're only getting about 8 to 10 inches here at the most. And it does kind of have some arching panicles there. Really pretty dark foliage, dark green foliage, kind of finer texture on this one. And then those beautiful sort of creamy to blush pink arching panicles. I love it. It's beautiful. It makes a great ground cover if you're looking for kind of a shady ground cover that gives you some midsummer bloom. So look for Sprite. It was probably perennial plant of the year back in the 90s. It was really, and still is a great plant out there for Astilbe. Okay, lots of other colors are available, but we wanted to show you the different types. Again, make sure that you're planting your Astilbe in that part shade or full sun or full shade, but make sure you're taking care of the moisture, and really the soil moisture is key with this family. So make sure that you do take care of that soil moisture. I also forgot to mention that they have great shade companions. Obviously, when you pair them with coral bells or heuchera, they look absolutely gorgeous. That green foliage contrasting with maybe purples or maybe more of like a peachy color. Those are always great. Fern as well. Sometimes you will find, you know, the Japanese painted ferns with silvery and burgundy striping in them look gorgeous. But even Lady in Red, this beautiful Lady in Red fern has a darker stem, sort of a lighter, you know, very fine foliage to it. They look gorgeous with these Astilbe as well. There's plenty of shade plants that will be very complementary to them. Again, early season, the Bleeding Heart and the Lenten Rose will do wonders with the Astilbe as well. So keep those in mind, and if you're looking for color in the shade mid-season, this might be the plant that you need. Enjoy.